invested, Australian companies that have invested in Botswana, all 14 of them participated in that business investment seminar. There was a lot of testimony by those companies, very powerful testimony about the virtues and the attractiveness of investing in Botswana and the attractiveness of Botswana as an investment destination in the mining space and any other business engagement one wanted to engage in. There was companies spanned from mining contractors to geologists to those who are into the exploration space, to miners, those in the finance space, including media. And interestingly, the African Down Under was organized by a media company, an Australian media company. So one lesson I bring back and one challenge I throw to you, the Botswana media, please emulate that. In fact, I regretted, why didn't we bring the private sector media to go to Australia so they can also learn from this? But it's not just Australia. Many of these places we go to in developed countries, you find the media very well developed in the private space, owned by Australians. So I'd really wish that Botswana owned media companies by old people and young people. So I hope you in part of fulfilling our quest to be a knowledge-based, knowledge-driven economy, you in the media space play your part. And I have a little freebie to give out, and we'll give it out at the end. This is what they were giving out as a pack to conference attendees. They are the ones who organize the conference. They just organize the mining industrialists to come and meet, and the media marketed it, and they've got a whole lot of documents in here in which they market and sell and provide information on the various organizations. So this will go to some lucky journalist. Not now, Kande. And so the participation of our private sector was very useful because they forged partnerships. Some stayed on for 2 weeks, and some stayed on for a little longer, some shorter. And they traveled around Australia visiting the companies that they were linking with. Some of our own who were there went on to engage with other sectors they had not initially intended to engage with, but realized the relationship that could benefit from their engagement with those. So the business seminar was a wonderful and welcome experience. I'm sure BITC will confirm that. Again, Remolau will, and his team, will elucidate on our visit to Munda Red's Drought Master farm, as they would talk about the other farms and the other facilities and institutions that they visited. We also thanked the Australians for supporting us, because they did, in our hosting of the Kimberley Secretariat in Botswana and all that goes with it. I might as well inform you now that we have now enhanced the status of the Kimberley Process Secretariat as government. I have recognized them, declared them an international organization, and so they will enjoy diplomatic status and immunity, and they will start populating their offices, and they'll advertise good luck to those who will apply. We also were able to complete our visit to Australia by paying a courtesy call on the, what's it called, Western Australia. The Western Australia, is it, I think he is He's not the chief minister. What do they call him? I'll try to find out. The governor. Sorry, the governor. The governor of Western Australia. Western Australia is the richest state in Australia. You might know that Australia is a federal republic. And Western Australia is the place where the most mining takes place in Australia. If my memory serves me right, I'm told there are more than 1,000 mines in Australia. 1,000. So the intellectual capital and the technical capital, the skill base, is massive in Australia. The finance support, massive in Australia. You might know they are also home to some global unicorns in the mining space. BHP and Rio Tinto are Australian companies, just like Debswana and Ogovango Diamond Company, our unicorns, Abuzona companies. All right? When we finished Australia, we came home and then proceeded a few days later to fulfill our twice postponed before visit to the to the Bahamas, Commonwealth of the Bahamas, a state visit. It was at the invitation of the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Honorable Philip Davis. We were supposed to have gone in March, then in May, and the only reason we agreed to go at this time was because we had the pending visit to the summit, Cuba, the G77, and because they are close to one another, and then the Cuba wanted us to be followed by the GA, we then decided to take the visit just before Cuba. So we went on a state visit to the Bahamas. Bahamas is a place which has relations with Botswana since 2006, diplomatic relations, but had related to Botswana prior to that. The first visit by a prime minister or leader in the Bahamas was by then Prime Minister Ingram, who came to Botswana in 1999. 1 year after Remukhaya became president, and Remukhaya received him here. And part of the reason for that visit was because they're members of the Commonwealth, and they're from the Caribbean. If you know our history well, and you know of the fondness and familiarity between the then Guyanese leader, Forbes, I think it was Burnham, and Sarazakama, when they were students in England, it forged a very strong political partnership between the leaders-to-be in the Caribbean and leaders-to-be in many African countries, our country included. But we also have relations with them because they provided opportunity for training of some of our medical doctors. They had a university which was shared among the islands, and it provided training for doctors. And so we still have Botswana doctors who ended up settling in the Bahamas and marrying Bahamians. We met 2 of them. The others were busy. So they have a offspring of Tswana Bahamian origin. Agreeana, we can have dual citizenship. So one of the highlights was for them to hear that officially it was possible, and they were really delighted. So we visited the Bahamas on this state visit also because Bahamas is a global leader in the provision of tourism. There's less than 500,000 Bahamians, total population, but more than 5 million tourists arrive every year. And, ocean liners, ships, these luxury ones, bigger than this room and higher than this room, we saw. And we saw some of the passengers disembark, and the way in which they were received and treated was a lesson to learn, and Minister Kiring would probably find time to expound on that, because that was a target. We had to go and seek collaboration and learn lessons and draw from what they did. But the other thing that hit us immediately we arrived in Bahamas, before we paid our courtesy call on the Governor General, Ms. Cynthia Pratt, was the fact that from the airport, even the security, the ministers, the Prime Minister, everybody in Bahamas is a tour guide. They welcomed us like a tour guide would. At every moment, welcome to Bahamas, with that deep Caribbean accent. Welcome to Bahamas, and a lively smile. And they said, they are certain you're going to enjoy yourself in Bahamas. And we did. They were sure we're going to be happy and make friends in Bahamas. They were sure that we were going to live comfortably. And we did. They didn't say it, they just demonstrated. Bahamas is clean, squeaky clean. Everywhere we were looking for a piece of paper, a little cigarette stub, we didn't find one. We didn't. Throughout us, we didn't just stay in Nassau. You know, we then went out to another island called Exuma. Go on. Exuma. Because they told us about wild pigs that swim in crystal clear blue water. Couldn't just Google and check out Exuma and the swimming pigs. We saw them swim. They're a tourist attraction. They started with 2 of them, 2 sites. The site we went to was a newly developed site. 3 years ago, they took some of those other pigs and they landed them somewhere and they started their magic. They swam, the tourists come on their boats and they take pictures, they dive into the water, swim with the pigs, and they go home with an experience they never had at home. How many of you have swum with pigs? And you know you can swim with them because the pigs are, those are the cleanest pigs I ever saw in the wild. Clean and well exercised, lean. And of course, Karna Lebazwana, hey, that was our idea. So we witnessed the excellent tourism, and in the official talks they talked about this. They agreed to collaborate with us. They have a training. They have, all manner of skills and strategies that they employ. Our minister and some of our officials went to witness this place where the tourists come in. They have a rich history. Of course, slavery is part of it. And they also kept some of the dances that originate from their homeland in Africa. It's called it's got costumes, and lots of drums. 2 hours non-stop. It's a spectacle. And when I looked at the Prime Minister, I didn't think he could do it. And then he did it, and out of courtesy, I also tried, and so did MASISI. And MASISI, the First Ladies, had their program, which involved a visit to a hospital and dealing with young people in distress and those who had opportunity in terms of their upliftment, particularly the girl child. They also visited this place where the tourists come en masse. And they went to a unique place where they have a part of the enclave where these tourists first arrive, which is dedicated to an immersement into Bahamian culture. The dance, the clothing, the music, the scents, the feel, the language, and of course, the food. So Bahamian restaurants. Jaganu. Jankano. Yeah, look it up, Jankano. Minister knows it very well. We went to our governor, and I guess Lene, he'll have opportunity to express what he experienced, because Bahamas has also done exceptionally well in the financial services sector. The highest performer in the economy is tourism, followed by financial services. And so we wanted, because we've got our IFC and we've, want to try and grow that space, and we want to get into, growing our fintech capacities. There's a lot of work that the financial services sector gets done with the central bank in the Bahamas. So our governor went and engaged in bilateral talks with his counterpart. And when I asked him how it went, he told me it went exceptionally well, and they intend to continue. We signed agreements to collaborate. We also focused on agriculture and education, local government and rural development, and skills development. Rural development is interesting because they have a unique kind of rural development. They have 700 islands. 700 islands make up Bahamas. Many of them just above water. So our considerations and engagement in matters to do with the environment focus a lot around climate change and mitigation, adaptation issues, and the issues that we are going to the G77 and the United Nations to deal with, and the issues that keep our minister busy, and the ones we're going to go to, I think it's Nairobi in November, where there's the Africa Climate Summit. And then there will also be the COP28 in UAE that we'll attend to. And part of the reason really is that we're falling behind. We need to make sure we put in measures to catch up in terms of our commitments for making sure that we do not go beyond the 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in temperature. So we agreed to deepen collaboration and share experiences. We also had the opportunity to return the invitation or visit. So I invited the Governor General to pay a courtesy a state visit to Botswana at a mutually agreeable time, as I did also extend the same to the Prime Minister to pay us a visit at a mutually agreed time. When we finished, I was invited to the University of Bahamas, UB, interestingly, Leonavida UB, and I gave a talk on democracy and governance. And it became interactive because there were students from the university, lecturers and professors from the university, there were senior government officials, there were students from secondary schools who engaged me in a series of questions. And when it finished answering them, I was asked how I would describe my country. Because I've been to Bahamas and I saw how it was, and people visited Bahamas, how would I describe my country so that people could also visit? And I attempted my best, because I really had to do it for you, because, hey, the standards of Bahamas are very high. So I had to pitch our offering. Then we went to Cuba. Cuba, we are going to attend the G77 summit, G77 plus China. These are mainly countries that are developing, and there we're going to attempt to address issues and areas of common concern as a grouping recognized in the United Nations system, led by Cuba prior to the United Nations General Assembly, the 78th session. And we engaged in on those and really talked. It was focusing a lot on science and tech and technology. So we did recognize that, more than 90% of the world's patents are homed in 10% of the countries of the world. This disparity being unhealthy. We need to collaborate more to enhance the presence of patents in countries that are also developing, so we change the skewing. We recognize that we felt the pains most poignantly of being underrepresented in the tech space during COVID, when, as you well know, we did not have supply of medicines, and those who were holders of the patents, even after selling to you, hung on to control the product. It was extremely painful. Kind of when you go to a shop, like Pop In, and you buy a liguinya and chips, it's yours, Agir. If you have had enough, or if you want to share, you can give it away, Agir. You never get back to Pop In and say, may I? Agir. Agir. Agir means, isn't it? I'm just telling the High Commissioner, I wasn't suspecting you. But with COVID vaccines, even after we bought them, even with our own money, we had to seek permission to donate. And you could not donate unless they authorized you. Those are very painful realities of not being owners of patents. And if any of you doubt why I am so passionate about a knowledge-based economy that is patent-driven, you'll understand why. Just imagine for a moment, if we had owned 2 of those patents, your lives would be different, right? I'm sure all of you with spectacles would have changed them 3 times. There'd be a lot of wealth in this country and a lot of power. And that's why we must do everything to innovate, to develop our legal frameworks, and we must develop patents that we own. So we decried that. We decried the disparity between developed and developing countries in the tech space. We also committed to ensuring that we collaborate as members of the G77 and we support one another in this space and reduce the enormity of domination by developed countries in this overwhelming presence in the tech space. We also talked about the need to fundamentally alter the international financial architecture, which is very, very unfair to us small countries, us developing countries. You notice that in some areas, not necessarily within the G77, there's a new formation called BRICS that's attempting to dollarize monetary transactions, among other things. Before we finished in Cuba, when we finished the G77, I was given an opportunity to visit the park where African heroes are immortalized. They have been given spaces where they have statues that have been put up for those who Cuba has decided to honor. And among them is our founding president, Cesar Zakama. And so we went there with the team of ministers and senior officials from Cuba, and we made statements of expression of solidarity to one another as is part of our policy and diplomatic outlook towards Cuba, and thanked Cuba for its relentless commitment to the liberation of countries that were not liberated, particularly in Southern Africa, and how there are even relations between Cuba and Africa at a personal human level, because some people who originate in Africa ended up in Cuba. I suppose this was part of the slave trade back then. But you get Cubans who look like you and I, and sometimes a shade in between because of interrelations. So we made those statements and lay a wreath at the foot of the statue of Cesar Zakama, and saw past ambassador of Cuba to Botswana and another past ambassador of Cuba to South Africa, who happened to be here, to come here to help deal with a very painful situation when the Cuban ambassador to Botswana passed on in Botswana at a meeting, and he had to come and sort everything out. I was Minister for Presidential Affairs at the time, and we met once again. We thank them obviously for the scholarships and the opportunities for study. We then met, like we did in Australia, we met Botswana, who work and live there, like we did in Bahamas, where we met Botswana, who live and work there and study there. We also met Botswana who are studying, mainly studying in Cuba, and mainly studying medicine, and had dinner with them. And they expressed to us how life had become more challenging when the onset of the embargo got tightened. But they are soldiering on, and they're studying hard, and they made some small asks that the government is considering. We then, when finished in Cuba, proceeded to New York. We had gone there for two main things in New York. The United Nations General Assembly, the 78th one, where I presented the statement. I won't bore you with it. It was what you heard. But we really put our pitch to the world and our view to the world, particularly with respect to international obligations and what our view is. We also went to go and engage with the private sector and the civil society sector in America. We met with those who are concerned with the environment and conservation, ICCF specifically, and they are doing a lot of work with us in CASA. CASA is the Transfrontier Park developed by 5 countries, the largest in the world: Angola, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Zambia are members of that. And we exchanged views, and we expressed our commitment to the success of CASA. And they, likewise, in the legislative front of America, expressed their commitment. And we strategized of how to reach out to more influencers in America, in the legislature America and the government of America, to support what we do. We also participated in side events in the UN, the Climate Mobility Summit, we had that. We had the UN Private Sector Forum, where I spoke. We had a high-level meeting on pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response, where I also spoke. We had, with the Civil Society, African American Institute, which celebrated its 70th gala dinner. We had an event there along with President Gengob, who has been celebrated because he's the oldest of leaders in Africa who was a beneficiary of the scholarship program back in the 1960s. And I, of course, thank them for the global award they gave us for leadership in 2022. We also had an event with Gabi. Gabi stands for Global African Leaders Initiative. We had it's really focused on leaders in Africa seeking partnership with companies in the West to support our development initiative. And we also had what's called the Off the Court and Across Africa event, which focused on the economy of sports It's an NBA event. You may have seen pictures of me with a very tall man. He's of DRC descent. And these are deep-pocketed professional basketball players in America who are of African descent. And they've come together and they want to help the continent. And I attended the event. And I also, because we don't have a Motswana there yet, but because they're deep-pocketed and they're influencers, we invite them to invest in Botswana. We also invite them to visit Botswana as tourists. And because they're influencers, they have a huge following. When they come to Botswana and they post, it just changes the narrative. It changes the game of our marketing. If you can get marketing like that, when somebody's on a holiday and they're paying and they market for you, it makes a big difference. So we befriend these people in part for those reasons. And they expressed a willingness and desire to come. But we also had some in the team engage with them on a business-to-business potential. Minister Mwachi and senior officials talked to them because one of them who is involved in the diamond space. And she's also married to a rapper. JJ Koo. Huh? LL Cool J. Hey. You can tell I don't rap. And Simone. Simone Smith. Simone what? Smith. She's a jewel of note. And she focuses, her major clientele are the African-American clientele who are committed to natural diamonds. As you know, our provenance is based on our commitment to natural diamonds. So we've got to grow that space. Now, we reached out to them. She is interested. The details will come later, those that can be unveiled now. It was a very useful engagement, particularly in terms of the scope of her reach and her commitment to grow that space. She has a partner who's been in diamond manufacturing and jewelry making for more than 40 years and has done some exceptional pieces globally. So he has a lot of reach and is well recognized in the jewelry space. And we also engaged with those who were providing an opportunity to utilize sports and the creatives for economic development enhancement. And we had a special event at the iconic Apollo Theater in what's that neighborhood called? Harlem, in New York. And they had an inaugural event at which I was guest speaker, along again with President Geingob, Ibidwa, the Bridge, Africa's Next Narrative at the Apollo. It was the first time it was done, so the Apollo wasn't quite full. It was trying to get full. But there were a lot of African and Africanist creatives who were there, and a commitment even by the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations made a pledge, and the United Nations Deputy General Secretary made a pledge to support the development of a positive narrative on and about Africa, because they were responding. It's a pushback to the negativity of narration, particularly by the global developed North media. It doesn't matter whether it's East or West. That is negative, patronizing, and condescending, and sometimes downright racist. So we want to push back and show that there are stories worthy of sharing about us as a people. whether it's in comedy, documentary, or what have you. And so they were committed to doing that. And there was a dance troupe that used a lot of clapping sequences. And so I had opportunity backstage to tell them about the gumboot dance origins accurately, which origins go back to the parties. The true origins of gumboot dance come from the Bakwena people of Botswana. Because when they were miners, as they were developing South Africa, as we were developing South Africa, giving aid for many, many decades, the Bakwena people and those who associate with them use the dried goat skins stuffed with blankets or wool to entertain themselves in the hostels. But sooner rather than later, the goat skins wore out and there were no goats hanging around the hostels. And they improvised. So the gumboot dance is really an improvisation, a bastardization of the parties. You must get that correct. So I told them we have this wonderful rhythmic dance sequence, and they must observe it. So if we have the opportunity, why not? Perhaps at some point in the future, we will charter the bigger Air Botswana craft, take the Botswana delegation there, along with our departees here and other creatives and journalists to go and immerse themselves in that economy so that you link up and develop a diaspora and a relationship with us to grow our economy. So we had that. And there are others that I'll skip in the interest of time because a number of jewelers that were met and filmmakers that were met by other members of the team in New York. I think Mr. Moagi is here, Masarame is here, MOKGWEETSI, Makering, Roying, Le Seroko, Kafela, Harnosama, the Governor Rauhan. I'm just trying to look at those who went. Le PS, former Minerals Now Trade, was also there. They will fill in those. We then proceeded to Germany. And in Germany, I had been invited to address a conference that goes by, commonly known as BITS, B-I-T-S, BITS, and Pretzel. And it's a conglomeration or congregation of innovation founders. They're geeks, thousands of them. What if you can imagine what you do at BDIH multiplied by 200 in space, but in terms of competence and what they have done, the legacy, it's more than 50 times bigger. There are people who had their products, got the latest tech gadgets that have not even been unleashed to the market, some of them. And everyone we met at those who said, I founded this. It was motivated by XYZ problem that I saw, and this is what I did. It was just amazing. But we engaged with them, and I told them what wonderful people we have here, how creative they are. We have a youthful population who learn fast, speak many languages, and could give them a run for their money. And we told them about BDIH, and wanted them to come here, and we go there and develop therefore a partnership between this. The founding of this is an annual event, and they have other sub-events in the year to bring together innovators and patent holders, huge patent holders. I mean, some of them run multi-billion-dollar companies, and they abandon them or leave them with their shares there, of course, and they go and start something else. They just can't be satisfied with creating new things. So it's that kind of, propensity to innovate that was compelling about this community. They are serial innovators. And it was amazing being in their midst and what they said they could do. Obviously very casually dressed in little bags like this and sneakers, and everybody on a little app. And the design of the conference facility was very interesting. I'd never seen so many places to be able to charge your laptop and phone, and you could tell this was made for them, And the kind of food they were also eating was like the kind of food that those people who do those things eat. I guess they eat and work. So, so it was very, very inspiring for me to talk about our transformation agenda and how we're digitizing. And I even asked them, but why did you invite me? They said they've taken note of Botswana's rapid rise in the world rankings by innovation. They took note, and they said they follow this, and they were very proud. They were encouraging us, and they were willing to support what we do. And they said we must really keep it up. So we asked them, and we're still in discussions with them, to partner with us. Particularly, we're thinking of our tertiary institutions. We're thinking of our young startups. We're thinking of BDIH. And it looks like the partnership will get off very well. We then visited Ivum electric car manufacturers. They manufacture an electric truck, mini truck, van. It's a 4-wheel drive. The unit cost is still a little high right now. It amounts to about 500,000 pula when you convert it. But part of it is because making anything, manufacturing, working, labor costs, costs in Germany are extremely high. So we're talking to them to partner with them through one of our tertiary institutions, or 2 of them, and the discussions are advancing extremely rapidly. We invited them to the EU Botswana Business Seminar, which will be on the margins of the global expo that's in October, mid-October. So a representative of IVUM will be here. They'll bring their video. Bringing the truck here would be too expensive. But it's about a 1.5 tonner truck. It's 4-wheel drive. It's electric. It goes up to 80 kilometers an hour, a range of 100 kilometers when fully charged. Charges on a 220 volt on the wall, and you can even put up a charge station, solar powered. So very versatile, very, very, very hardy, and a few issues to probably sort out for Botswana terrain is clearance and the width, but those are very easily manageable from a tech point of view. The possibility of them coming to do a semi-knockdowns here, extremely high. So we're looking at that with a lot of interest. And obviously we made it clear to them that because we're interested in being co-owners of the intellectual capital, whatever subsidiary or company they set up here, if our tertiary institutions are to partner with them, we are not going to be clients being offered a service. We'll be co-producing, co-owning, and owning some shares. And we also talked about the technical training, the skill training of persons who are able to manufacture that. I might as well tell you we are very advanced with B3 in terms of our knowledge, electric mobility, because as I did say before, we have actually with Ali Boats we have we'll put on display, and I think there'll be a launch organized soon, an electric boat. We also have electric vehicles in Botswana in the tourism sector, called Chobe Safari Lodge. There are electric Land Cruiser type vehicles that are used for game viewing. One of the advantages of electric vehicles, not only is it clean energy and clean mobility, but for game viewing, it's extremely quiet, as you'd imagine. So you could get a very good view of game. We had opportunity to interact with the CIC. CIC is a global conservation organization. We had a luncheon with them. It's called the International Council for Game and Wildlife Conservation. We had lunch with the president, certain Dr. Philip Hammer. He's Austrian. And we engaged with them. They are promoters of conservation, but with hunting as part of conservation. Because some of you, I don't know how well you know, but hunting has been used as a tool of conservation since time immemorial. And we had used it. We had a little gap in 2015 when we declared we are not going to have any hunting at all. And then we became a little overwhelmed. But as we committed to consulting our people, we consulted, and we ended up lifting the hunting ban. And so they were quite delighted that when we invoked the hunting ban, we removed ourselves from membership to the CIC. And so one of the reasons for visiting them and engaging with them was to announce formally that we would seek membership again of the CIC. The CIC and the body of these people are made up of very, very, very deep-pocketed people, some of whom are hunters. So these are not cheap hunters. These are people who would come and buy a hunting license for some trophy animal for loads of money. And that's how we've been auctioning them and marketing them. Marketing will engage further in on that. We also told them happily that the attempt to promulgate an act in Parliament, the British Parliament, to stop us from trading in trophies failed. And we were very happy it failed, because this is our economic product. It's a sustainable economic product that we have managed better than anybody else in the world. Why should we be denied to trade in our economic product? And who have we ever denied to trade in sustainable economic products that they have? You know, when you castigate hunting and make it akin to butchering and murder, bloodthirstiness and all, it's plainly not true. You all know our people, you know our society. We are not that. And more than anything else, it's better than whopping the whales, shooting the whales to near extinction. It's better than butchering the seals. It's better than the annual fox hunts and the decimation of other deer and other bird species that others have been known to do. So it's not a sport of bloody proportions. It is an economic engagement that also fulfills the livelihoods of our people. I had an interview with a local newspaper in Germany, primarily about our conservation policies and stance. And then we also visited the German Mechanical Industry Association, which is helping our CITF in collaboration in enhancing our technical skills, particularly in hydraulics and others that they engage in. And they are going to come here, and we're going to forge a deeper partnership. The VDMA is a huge organization. It's made up of more than 3,000 of the world's leading German leading technical companies that are global. And they have the expertise, they have the technology to share with us, including some of the technology used, at least the German technology that used at Morupule and other such places, including the coated welding that is performed on our pipelines. They have all those skills, including a capacity to make machinery to maintain all hydraulic equipment in Botswana of whatever shape and form. We actually met an owner of a company that does hydraulics globally. And then machinery for cement production and agro-processing in the food space. And so we invited them, and we particularly expressed interest in our being made to contact the cement manufacturing companies. Last but not least, we stopped over in Kenya just for the stopover because we left late in Germany and very warmly welcomed. And I say that because there's a massive Kenyan company, the Nation Media Group, owned by the Aga Khan Foundation, that is coming to Botswana in December to undertake what's called the Kusi Ideas Festival. Again, a media company organizing a Kusi Media Festival. I'd like you to familiarize yourself with the Nation Media Group and also the Kusi Ideas Festival, which have been running mainly in East Africa, Rwanda, Kenya. I think they may have done it in Uganda or Tanzania, but now they've expressed interest to come and do it here. It's a meeting, really a summit of ideas, where people come and deliberate and they evacuate their ideas. Essentially leaders in the private space, in private business, non-government organizations, and government about issues that affect all of us, and particularly the role of the media in that. So they're going to have this festival, as they call it, in Botswana from the 6th to the 9th of December. Be there and participate. And it must be known that this is no small feat, because the Nation Media Group of Kenya is the second largest independent media group in Africa. It's massive. So expect it to be big. It is also to interrogate at that festival that we'll have in December. We're going to be interrogating and we're going to be giving impetus to our journey as Africans to achieving the African Union's Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. And please get behind this. It's going to be talking about a number of sectors: agricultural, economy, the state of technology, science, research, and innovation across Africa, and where and when African youth can also pivot to play a role in this. And obviously the big cultural debate and also debate on logistics, transport, healthcare in Africa. So be there and participate. So thank you very much for your listening. I'm ready to take questions as they may come.
Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry. I'm being reminded the Minister of Foreign Affairs here, which was very important, that two members of Parliament were with us when we undertook the state visit in Bahamas. Honorable Tsabang, Neva Tsabang of Totume, and Honorable Nkange, headquarters at Totume, and then Honorable Healy of Gaborone Central. We also had an engagement with women in political leadership, which invited us because we're doing so well with women, particularly in the technocratic space, but we're not doing so well with women in political leadership, and we committed to doing more. So I invite you women to come and join us in this political space. le Batswana. In re kopane le Batswana every place we went to. So I don't know how many women are going to take that challenge up. But there are very well known and documented reasons that make it difficult for women to participate, but we want to support them. Thank you. Let me sit down.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and yes, and it is, of course, His Excellency's prerogative to, if he wishes, to call upon his ministers to say a few words concerning their engagements. So he will call them as at his pleasure. And obviously, after that, you will be allowed to ask questions. And just also perhaps a little bit of an elaboration on the announcement that His Excellency made over the KUSI Ideas Festival. We do have the board member from the Nation Media Group, Re Mwangi, with us as well, with His Excellency the High Commissioner. So if you would like to engage with him after that, you are most welcome to do that, so that you can be able to know further about the KUSI Ideas Festival. Your Excellency. Yes, yes, Your Excellency. Honorable Mao.
Ke a leboga motutegi Tautona ke a dumedisa matona a puso ba golwane ba puso ba leng hano, the members of the media, the Kenyan High Commissioner. Very good morning. Ke tla leka go nna mokhutswane Tautona o setse a buile dintlha tsa mahoko go go leele mo nka go buang. I can promise Your Excellency gore morago ga mo we will also organize a media briefing specifically to delve more into the visitations that we made. Hari khopatile se gore ba botse dipotso tse di tseneletseng. Mme hala jaaka Tautona sa tswa go bua ke bua ka sekgowa ke ta tswa kae to accommodate our friend from Kenya. Just to add on to what His Excellency laid out, we did go to Australia from the 25th August, and we only came back via Bahamas upon completing our visit. But the gist of why we went to Australia and also Bahamas is laid out by His Excellency. You will remember that in the last session of Parliament, we passed legislation, Botswana Meat Industry Regulatory Authority. We did a desk study when we were coming up with this bill from the Australian experience, including our neighbors, Namibia, but much of it was derived from the Australian experience. So upon passing this bill, we found it prudent that we must visit Australia to go and have first-hand, in-depth engagement, face-to-face, with the Australian authorities, the industry in Australia, as to how they have been implementing a similar legislation. That was primarily the core. Secondly, we are also discussing a memorandum of understanding with the state of Victoria, broadly on agriculture, so that we can have a straight line of communication with the Australian authorities on further collaboration, be it as the Ministry of Agriculture, other entities that deal with agriculture, such as NARDI, BUAN, research institutions, and the farming communities, the farmers' associations alike. That is why we invited the chairperson, Wabif Union, retired Judge Pumapi, to represent the farmers. Had it not been due to limited budget, we would have carried along more farmers and farmers associations so that they can engage more deeply with their Australian counterparts. We also met the research institutions, which NARDI is busy engaging with as a research institution. Some of these groups are Agricultural Trade Group, Department of Agriculture and Fisheries and Forestry, which deals mainly on issues of traceability, issues of governance around the industry, and they center more on food safety. Animal welfare is very key in the Australian agricultural sector. Hore how ruajana mi animal welfare yone inzijang as you trade. We met the Red Meat Advisory Council. These are industry players. They are not government-led entities. They are industry players, and they have their councils, which they subscribe to, the membership, and these councils are led or make their day-to-day office work, research, and all that through levies levied from the sales of cattle, sheep, goats, feedlotters, processors, livestock exporters. They are not associations that are always looking up to government to fund their operations. Is it signal? Oh. Yes, I was saying this is a Red Meat Advisory Council, RMAC for short. The members of the media, you can Google them, read through what they do. The Australian Meat Advisory Council is one of the organizations that we had in-depth discussions with. Lebone, they survive on levies paid by various associations that subscribe to this organization. The Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research, this is a research-intensive organization which NARDI will be taking up collaboration with them. They do have investment in developing countries. About 9,000 scientists working on low and lower middle income countries. They have a presence in East and Southern Africa, in Kenya, Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, Malawi, Mozambique, and they have a small presence here in Botswana through CADESA. And we believe we will grow that relationship. The other organization is the Meat Livestock Australia, MLA, which, like the others, also it's like levies paid by associations. So it's cattle and sheep and goats. They deal with regulatory issues in terms of trade. The meeting also with Integrity System Company. Integrity System Company is a company that oversees the traceability, quality assurance systems through 3 programs. That is livestock production assurance, which provides full information of livestock as it transfers from one owner to the other. These are part of the elements that the MIRA bill, as enacted, will be dealing with. National Livestock Identification System, supporting biosecurity and food safety along the supply chain, national vendor declaration. This will be elements that the MIRA bill will also be dealing with. We then met, thank you, sir. We then met the Australian Wagyu Association. We will talk to further. Wagyu. They originated from Japan, but Australia has perfected and surpassed the Japanese, and now they export to Japan and other nations. We bought 1,000 straws, the Wagyu, already tisekwano. And I must say beforehand, we are exploring even getting live Wagyu animals to come here and start that line of production, because 1 kilo, $100. Lastly, just wrapping up, like I said, the drought master, we went to meet drought master. Drought master ke khomo e leng gore e teng kwano. You will remember Re Rudilemke, khomo ya gagwe e neng ya wina re ko Texas, America. The drought master cow ya supa gore e dira sente mo Botswana. We bought 3,000 straws tsa drought master go di atametsa Batswana so that bate ba rue. Lone, we are looking at bringing live animals go tla go dintsihatsa jaaka re dirile ka tsa ko Texas. Let me just wrap it there. We will take questions. Lastly, Bahamas, we met, and also we met research institutions, the ministry. We are working on a draft memorandum of understanding. Leba Bahamas, as they are tourist-led. Bajanama, me haba produce nama. And they were very interested on the concept of our grass-fed beef. And we will be looking at channels of taking our beef to Bahamas. They are very interested more. Na any growth hormones. We were pitching to them. So in a nutshell, I just thought I should add on this and say this was a very fruitful visit to a country such as Australia, which is a leader in the agricultural sector. To also stay ahead of the game in the region. These visits are just not chako ujale chikukone ili chako.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Your Excellency, Cabinet Ministers here present, Your Excellency, the High Commissioner, senior government officials, members of the Fourth Estate. His Excellency has elaborated, but I just need to make 1 or 2 points. From the Australian Africa Down Under Mining Conference, the luring is for Australian investors to come to Botswana, primarily because Australia also has got a very stringent mining legislation, which then promotes high safety levels in the mines, high productivity, what we need, especially in the Kalahari Belt, where we already have 2 Australian companies that are applying that trade. You'd also note that there is the sale of Kwematsau copper mine, so we wanted to see interest groups there that are very credible, who can take over from Kwematsau current owners. And then in America, you would note that currently we've We've signed heads of, not heads, but statement of principles with DBS, and in the next day or two we'll be signing those heads of terms. And one of the key takeaways from there was the further allocation of the Botswana production to our own Okavango Diamond Company. So that 50% means we will have extra diamonds that we need to sell and sell profitably. So part of the journey to the United States was really to target, because we've been seeing these people at the likes of JCK in Las Vegas, it was to target these high net worth individuals, especially African American individuals, whether they are in the jewelry making space, in the film production space, entertainment space, and all these other groupings. And the primary thing was that they were telling us they've been really taken away from this lucrative market, and now they are ready, and they are sort of biased towards their own, which means that they want to be targeting Africans and African Americans. And therefore, they want to participate with their own money now to buy our diamonds. And by so doing, we are also telling a Botswana story. And therefore, they want to use their networks so that we can tell a Botswana story about our diamonds, whilst also making tons of money for the development of Botswana. So we're targeting film directors, entertainment gurus, basketball players. In fact, on the basketball side, you know, they say, we don't know what to do with our money. I mean, there are 450 players in the NBA. 25% of them are coming from outside of America. And they say, we are looking at our countries, especially Africa as a whole. So we want to take our wealth to Africa. And therefore, Botswana, here we are. We hear about your beautiful diamonds, and we want to spend that money in those, on those diamonds. Therefore, we were quoting those people. On the entertainment space, the networks they have are like the Netflixes, the HBOs, DSTV, and all the others. And they say, because we met somebody who has been to BTV, they say they saw wonderful producers, people with talent, and they also saw great infrastructure. Now, all that is needed is to tap on that talent so that they can use their competence and their money whilst developing our people here, so that a great lot of our youth is also capacitated to come and do what they can do here, create content that they can send to the various networks that they have. So really, it was about Botswana diamonds. Lastly, on the jeweler side, the likes of Simon Smith and the likes of Black and Jewelry Coalition, the likes of Clear Cut, they've got programs targeted towards women, targeted towards African American people, in terms of incubation and capacitation on the jewelry making space. So they want to come to Botswana. Some of them have already come here during the CCA, that is the US-Africa Summit, during the Forbes Under 30. So they want to come here and have those partnerships with Botswana, because we told them that Botswana will have a special dispensation to get diamonds from ODC, from our recent agreement with DBS. And therefore, they will use their money to partner with those Botswana, create this jewelry, and sell to Botswana. So really, this is that. And the likes of ClearCut is a tech accelerator. Only started because they were rejected elsewhere by the big guys. So they've made a success story as two young Americans, and they've already had partnerships here in Botswana with people that they met at the Forbes Under 30. So they want to just continue on that collaboration. So these are the things that we want to be coming to Botswana, so that we target our ODC 50% allocation, and we can create a lot more value out of those. We'll take questions later. Thank you for the short intervention.
Thank you very much. Greetings to you, His Excellency, Honorable Ministers, PSP, acting, Your Excellency. I will be particularly brief. I think that His Excellency was very thorough in terms of his explanations, particularly focusing on our visit to Germany. But I'll add a few points onto there. First, on the Brits and Purcell conference with the startups. In fact, as His Excellency explained, there's a huge community of startups in Germany that we found. But what was quite interesting, I think, when you note some of the innovation and the work that they're doing, it's in things like smart transportation, optimizing the transportation system, whether it's vehicles, even in aircrafts, literally, almost like expecting to have things like an Uber service in the aviation space. There was also a lot of work that I found being done in the energy management, particularly off-grid energy management, but also facilitating feeding back into the grid when there's excess in that in your off-grid management. So a lot of the innovation focused around that, photovoltaics. In fact, we met one innovator, interestingly enough, from Southern America, who is actually now producing or working on producing a thin film panel that you can just literally lay out onto, as a strip, lay out onto your roof. And the advantage of it being that, you're talking about a very lightweight energy generating solar panel. In respect of our visit to EVUM, it was a most interesting visit. The vehicle that they have is targeting a very well-selected niche market, and we think that it's a very suitable vehicle for Botswana. In fact, we spoke with the development manager. We're putting together teams, technical teams from here, including even teams from the trade, legal, that we want to visit EVUM soon enough so that we can continue these discussions with a lot of detail with respect to us being able to set up the assembly from semi-knockdown kits. His Excellency's touched on issues around the suitability of the vehicles. This is what they'll be looking at. I think one of the aspects and points that I can make, it's a vehicle that we believe will service the farming communities well. Again, it said it's a tipper truck. It can service other industries, including road construction. What is most interesting about it as well, just think about it as a mobile power unit. It's got a socket at the back, so the battery power that you've got, it allows you to discharge it up to about 80%, and you can power your tools, grinders, drills, all that sort of thing. This is why it's, as His Excellency pointed out, I think the real issue is getting the cost down so that it's got a market in Botswana. I'd like to stop there. I think His Excellency spoke about the other visits, hydraulics and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you very much and greetings. Thank you, Your Excellency, and protocol observed. I will just add a few points and Kisimwele Halaka Air Bahamas, where we were joined in the Bahamas trip by Botswana Tourism Organization and the Hotel and Tourism Association of Botswana CEO, and they will be taking further the work that we'll be doing with Bahamas on skills development, on core branding and core marketing of tour packages, and also on service quality standards. But I wanted to show that His Excellency has said that the Bahamas, in terms of marketing their destination, they told me that they start from home. Or even if you go to school in America, there's a lot of influence that will derail you from who we are as Bahamians. So they teach their children to carry Bahamian pride everywhere they go. They teach tourism at schools, and they teach people how to welcome visitors. And I think we had that in our own society that we just need, through the research agenda, to revive. And Botswana, they carry Botswana, whether they are at school, whether they are married outside, whether they travel, even in an airline, they can be able to do that. So we will be collaborating through an MOU with Bahamas to help us. Also on data management, you will see that our statistics on arrivals of tourists, that sometimes we report 2 years behind, and we are not up to date with data, so they will be helping us. They have agreed, the ministry, that they will send their team to our annual Botswana Travel and Tourism Expo that happens in Kasane, and I think it will help us. When you look at how they have developed tourism around their water bodies, the Kasane Kazungulari Development Program that is reorganizing the infrastructure, you will see that there's a lot that we can learn from them, and also our MICE strategy that we are finalizing will take a lot of lessons from there. From the General Assembly, UN General Assembly, I made a lot of engagements through the different side events and meetings, but I want to highlight that when you talk about climate financing, I had to raise the issue that we as Botswana classified as middle income economy. We don't get to benefit from the finance packages that even a lot of private sector have come through to say they will help. Or we are trapped in between two levels where our resources are stretched. We do a lot, so we feel like we are being punished for good governance that has elevated us to middle income, so we must be considered, at least top us up and recognize that we are doing a good job. The issue of climate mobility was also high, as His Excellency has said, people who are displaced because of climate change impacts. But I had to highlight to them also that we're talking about the displacements and, in terms of internal things that happen. When wildlife also moves in different patterns because of climate change, it disturbs livelihoods, farming activities, and settlements. So we have to attend to balancing, animal, wildlife, induced movements also as they affect people, and that must be, attended as well. Let me just pass by Yahore. The Zero Waste event was also hosted by the First Lady of Turkey, and our First Lady was going to be put to be part of that. The Climate Mobility Center, we had a side meeting, and they are going to help us with technical expertise to connect us with those who can help us to manage mobility. We are also a transit route for mobile people, so this must be known that landlocked countries must be attended in terms of that. And going to COP28, just briefly, because we will also do a detailed press brief that we are seeking dates and times for very soon. Going to talk COP28, I think I want to highlight as I end that our participation in the climate change conventions, we had just come from the Africa Climate Summit in Nairobi, Ministers of Environment, discussing a lot of progress that is showing to be happening in climate change planning and implementation. Going to COP28, we are prepared as Botswana, and we are motivated to go and showcase what Botswana is doing. The issue of how Botswana is managing governance, planning, allocation of resources, structuring of government, research agenda, and so forth. Your Excellency, people are very, very interested in learning on how we do, our governance. So we also want to emphasize that we are considering seriously our participation at the COP. We include the media, as we said. We will start with the COP, get our private media organized so that we give them opportunity, not just to hear us coming from there, but they can also be part of this. Young people, I have secured support from the host country to help us, organize more teams of young people who are activists themselves to participate at the COP. We have just concluded training of SADC parliamentarian portfolio committees on climate change yesterday, and then we want to also help to organize our parliamentarians to also have a voice, speak on how we enact laws and stuff like that. So we have agreed that SADC is going to also help us to get our parliamentarian representatives and innovators. We just concluded a gender study that is mapping the hotspot areas, how climate change affects women, how it affects gender, and how we can be able to channel our interventions and our plans to help them. Imagine how they are no longer able to stand long hours or sit long hours trying to trade by the streets, and also to go to the farms. You know, there are floods, there's a harsh weather, and so forth. So this study is very useful. We are going to showcase. We are going to have a Botswana pavilion, much improved this time, Your Excellency, and we are also going to use a lot of opportunities for us to speak and to share our story. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'll be very brief. In addition to the bilateral meetings that I attended as part of the delegation, I attended the United Nations General Assembly and had speaking engagements. I'd just like to touch on two. The first one was the high-level dialogue on financing for development. You will recognize that this year's United Nations General Assembly focused on the SDGs. Are we doing well? Have we met the targets? Where are we failing, and what do we need to do? And part of the conversation was really looking at what is making us fail or not to achieve what we are supposed to achieve. So part of that is the global financial architecture. There has been a conversation about the global financial architecture for years now. So at the high-level dialogue where we had heads of state, ministers participating, some of the key points were focusing on the global financial architecture to say we've all come to a point to agree that this is not working for us. Now what needs to change? And at the end of the day, we agree that we've been talking for a long time now. There needs to be action. And part of the conversation is going to continue at the upcoming IMF World Bank meetings that are going to take place next month in Morocco. So we'll continue that conversation there. Another aspect of the conversation was on debt, because most of us developing countries are under debt burden. Some of us are seriously distressed, and there are more that are at risk. So that was also a discussion to say, because of the debt, the interest rates, the products that are out there, some of our countries are not doing well. But what is it that we can do to assist developing countries? And I spoke here on behalf of the landlocked developing countries. Another aspect was promoting inclusive and effective international tax cooperation and mobilizing domestic resources. At the end of the day, countries had to commit that we will provide the resources that are required to ensure that we achieve the sustainable development goals. So that was the debate, and that is a conversation that continues. We'll continue to make our input as Botswana at the different fora. The second one that I'd just like to touch on briefly is the conversation on the power of data. Because one, while we have to provide the necessary financing to ensure that we achieve the sustainable development goals, it is another thing to know whether you are really making it or not, and you need data for you to determine whether you are really making it or you are not making it. Just as an example, it was indicated that on a number of indicators, such as gender equality and women empowerment and climate change, quite a number of countries are unable to tell you where they are in terms of implementation because they do not have the data. So we had to make commitments that we will engage in initiatives to improve data. And at the UN, there was a national data partnership launch where each country had to commit that we look at our data. As governments, we will partner with other stakeholders in the economy to ensure that we use the data, not just in government, but even outside government. As Botswana, the Statistics Botswana also participated there. And just to indicate that we have been working with some agencies of the United Nations on how we can improve our own data so that we can have more granular, local, accessible, and timely data as Botswana. Because a lot of the time, like Minister Rauna Abua, more data 2 years after, it really doesn't help you. And one initiative that was launched also was by Microsoft is Digital Development Program that as Botswana we are looking to participate in, where they'll be working with a number of countries to see how we can really work together using technology and using data to ensure that we are able to move and take advantage of the data dividend. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Your Excellency, honorable ministers, senior government officials, members of the media, all protocol observed. Your Excellency, I'll only touch on one issue and perhaps buttress one that has not been said. The foreign policy of Botswana, which is anchored on our 5 national principles. And one of the levers that the President has in the development of our country is foreign policy. I'm saying this because sometimes we tend to forget why the President travels. He travels so that we can maintain our democratic standing, because he is selling the Botswana story. He travels because we have to develop. He travels because we have to be self-reliant. He travels because he wants us to be united. And he travels to do all this anchored by what we are known for, Botho. So those I wanted to make very clear, because sometimes there's an issue when this president travels. But as the ministers were presenting, you were noting the successes, current and future, that we will benefit from his travels. The last thing that I want to talk to, that the other minister did not talk to, is our chairship of the LLDCs. We've been chair of this group of landlocked developing countries for the last 2 years, and our chairship has been extended for an extra year. And that was not a mistake. It is because of our performance as the chair of that group. I won't bore you with the details. We'll have much more details to give you at a much later time. But one thing that maybe I should highlight is that we are preparing for a conference in Rwanda of the LLDCs. It will be the first in Africa, and it happens under our chairship. I just wanted to highlight those, Your Excellency. I thank you.
Your Excellency, Honorable Cabinet Ministers, Acting PSP, Permanent Secretaries, members of the media, good morning. Good morning. Just to add to what His Excellency said in terms of my involvement, first just on the structure of the GDP of Bahamas, 75% tourism, 15% financial services, and then others. So that's very important. The bulk of the financial services is offshore, even though there had been challenges with AML and issues of that nature. But the primary focus for me this time around was to share the learning experiences with respect to the design, adoption, and launch of a central bank digital currency. Bahamas was the first jurisdiction in the world to launch what is called the cent dollar. And this is in line with our strategy. We are looking at digitalization in Botswana. We have said it that technology is the future of finance. There's no doubt. And we're talking financial inclusion, we are looking at those opportunities. So I did engage the Bahamas, and I have already put together now a technical team, and I've written to the governor that in November we will be coming now with the full suite of all the regulators, central bank, the non-bank financial institution regulatory authority, the FIA, that we engage deeply with the Bahamas to share, to learn from their experience. Clearly, the ecosystem is very important. There was an issue about Bahamas. They're also looking at us in terms of discontinuation of fiscal checks.
our experience in that. But they also don't have mobile money. They also want to learn. So there is obviously some experiences to be shared. So, Your Excellency, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Governor. And as you heard, as many of the honorable ministers who are coming here have promised that they will be giving you an opportunity to talk to them at their press conferences pertaining to the various ministries and sectors. So I'm going to request that we are going to be very short in terms of the questions that you are going to ask. We're not going to take a long time. And I'm going to start with just... You will have the microphones. I'm sure there's a microphone that is roving there that will come to you. Say who you are, the organization or the media house that you are representing. Ask 2 questions. And there's already a friend of mine there in front. Please say who you are and be specific as to who the person that you are asking the question. Thank you.
My name is Mompati Klankan from Miri and the Monitor newspapers.
I'm sorry to say that.
Okay. My name is Mompati Klankan from Miri and the Monitor newspapers. Your Excellency, there have been critics that the frequency of your external engagements suggests that answers to the country's challenges lie outside Botswana with like no homegrown solutions. So what's your response to that? My second one is that earlier this morning, Lucara announced that it was terminating its 10-year agreement with HB Antwerp. So will be government reconsidering its decision to take up equity in HB in light of this? And alternatively, what is the government's comment on this development? Thank you.
Okay. There's Dikarabo.
Good morning, Your Excellency. My name is Dikarabo Ramadou. I work for Botswana Guardian. I'll put his question in another way. You have been going around for at least 4 weeks. You are leading a country that has high rate of unemployment. So what I want to find out from you, or what I would ask you to share with Botswana is there any value for money, value for the investment? What should be an ordinary man who is waiting to be employed expect from here in short or medium term? Secondly, you, at the beginning of your address, you talked about African. What I would like you to share with your nation is your government going to continue investing in the road infrastructure, hospitals, and the stadia that you had promised you are going to build? I thank you, Your Excellency.
There was one hand there from a lady, the lady over there.
Good morning, Mr. President. I wanted to ask...
State your name and the media house you represent.
Okay. My name is Noloy Sompofu, and I'm from the University of Botswana, a final year architecture student. And I have been studying, I am currently doing a research on perception architecture and creative potential. So it's only right for me to ask what the government's plan is in investing and promoting the creative industry, because currently the creative economy has more than doubled from 200 billion to 500 billion. So how are we trying to put our foot into the door or try and enter into that economy? Because recently, or we have all noticed that creatives are leaving the country for better opportunities. They are trying to make a living, and they are not able to do that here. So how are we trying to invest and promote the creative industry in Botswana?
Thank you. Your Excellency, I think you can take the 4 questions that were asked. I think 6 questions, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. 2 more people, Your Excellency.
Good morning, Your Excellency. My name is Yolisa Miriki, and I'm a student doing political science and public admin as a double major. So my question, we appreciate you, President, for going out and fulfilling your democratic duties. As a student in political science, I want to be a diplomatic when I'm done. So my question is, are you willing to build more, to establish more diplomatic missions outside Botswana? And are you willing to transport more students outside with you to learn how you do these diplomatic missions? And also, I heard you, Mr. President, you were talking about an EU summit that will be happening in October. Would you be so kind to pick at least 10 students from the political science department so that they can be there to learn more about what's happening in the EU summit? Thank you.
Thank you. Stoffel at the far end.
Ke a leboga dumela tautona dumela matona puso ke bidwa Tshireletso Stoffel from Radio Botswana. My main interest is on the United Nations General Assembly. You talked about international obligation, and maybe it's time, don't you think it's time for Botswana to triple its efforts in lowering manufacturing companies into the country, especially in the health services? We've seen the interest of NANT Botswana, but currently there is no activity that is happening, and Botswana is currently facing challenges when it comes to the supply of medicines, and I'm sure there is going to be a pandemic on its way. We need to be prepared, Your Excellency. So maybe if you can share with us the challenges that the companies are experiencing when it comes for them to settle in Botswana, and what is it that the government will do to ensure that they are accommodated so that we can be prepared. And maybe lastly, if you can touch on the Ideas Festival, what is this thing and how is it going to benefit Botswana? And are there any heads of states that have shown interest in coming to Botswana?
Thank you, Your Excellency.
I beg your pardon?
Mr. Mompati, Tangani, sorry, Wamiri. I think I'll answer your question at the same time as I answer from The Guardian. The first question, that is, the critics about the frequency of my external visits and engagements, suggesting that there may be more solutions outside Botswana than in Botswana. You know, from the time we're independent, if not even from before that time, and the history of development of Botswana up to now is a history that has been informed by our engagements, our relations with others outside Botswana. Our living experiences on a daily basis are a testament of the results of our engagements with the outside world. You know, trade, just trade, business trade, comes about because there are relations that are built. You and I are wearing clothes that are a result of those engagements. The food you ate this morning, the pen you are writing on, the newspaper you work for, the print technology, the communication technology are a result of that. And often when there are no results, and they are so bad, the results are so fractured, they may even result in an imposition of sanctions. And luckily for Botswana, we have not arrived there. Now, the question may also be, Why so many? I did say when I started, I'm in a hurry. The lifeline of a politician is very limited, particularly our president. As per our constitution, maximum 10 years. Minimum, I guess, 5 years if you win an election. Or could be shorter, given our automatic transition, because I ascended on the 1st of April 2018. We had an election October 2019. I could have lost that election. Now, I don't know what the formula is in your imagination. And when I say you, I don't mean you, the asker of the question. I'm saying that rhetorically. I don't know what the formula is for the number of times a president, different from a minister or a diplomat or a public servant other than a diplomat, should travel outside. But I decide, in my fashioning of the speed at which I want to take this country forward, in my imagining and deciding on the urgency of the need to re-engage the world. You must remember that, to be blunt, for the 10 years preceding me, we hardly met anybody at my level. I've got to make up for lost time. It's just the truth. How many persons at the head of state level in the last 10 years before me went to the United Nations? How many went to the AU? How many went on bilateral missions that were predicated on trying to diversify deeply this economy? And I can give you examples of what I mean in terms of sectors. Digitization. How many times do you go and focus on that? How many times do you have external missions that focus on mining and technology and innovation? So, in doing my job, in the fulfillment of doing my job, in the analysis that I have to undertake, at my level, because when a head of state comes in, the doors open wider than when a minister comes in. It's a fact. We would not have gotten those bolts and the seamen and access to the companies we got to in America if I had not been there. We wouldn't. Or if we had, it would have taken a much longer time. We would not have gotten access to some of the deep-pocketed investors, leading industrialists and thought leaders in their spaces if I had not gone directly to engage them. So, I guess it may be useful if we do take some of you journalists and perhaps break a bit of protocol and then invite you to sit in when we engage with these people, because you probably don't know what happens. So now I don't feel guilty. I'm not apologetic about the frequency of my travel. It's not, many might think that it's a joyride. It is not. It is not. It's very draining. Many might think we actually do little work. Ask anybody who's been in my delegation. It's back-breaking and tiring work. In fact, even when we go on what might seem leisure, like when we went to Exuma Island, the bilateral between myself and the leader, the Prime Minister, and the former Prime Minister continued. We agreed on some things. And when we come back to complete, we concluded by instructing our senior persons, in being the ministers and the technocrats, to execute. That's the job of a leader. Now I lead from the front. And I express to them how proud I am of my country, how I love my country and my people. And I tell them how good my people are, competent, thirsty and yearning, young and vibrant. I'm very proud of my Botswana, as I am proud of all its products. So, to cut a long story short, I traveled because there had been a thirst that I'm quenching. a thirst of people knowing about us. You'll be surprised when you get to some countries and they still think Botswana is part of South Africa. Or they think Africa is Nigeria. We've got to distinguish ourselves. I travel also to build the integrity of the Botswana passport, so that when you travel, people know we are a people worthy of respect and integrity. I also travel to mobilize investors to come here. Why? Because we are not an industrialized country. We don't have the spread of economic activity that we need to have all of you employed. And if I sat home, it won't grow. If I sat home, who do I expect to travel on our behalf to meet counterparts at my level? You know, when I went about ferociously campaigning for Mema Vensini a few years ago when I was vice president, when the presidents met, even though I was representing the president of Botswana, they would set us aside. There were no only presidents here. And that's where they decided who they were going to vote for. One of them took me aside and said, "My younger brother, I can see you're trying very hard, but it won't happen. You are not of our rank. We need someone of our rank." I hope this is understood, because the diversity that's out there is amazing. We could actually improve the level of employment in Botswana, as we have. And I'll go on to detail how when I answer the other questions that come. Let me just provide another interpretation to the question as asked by Rera Mudubu, which is similar to yours. Yeah, the imagination of an unemployed man. I'm spending 4 weeks out. I don't know why you didn't say 20 weeks, because if you add all the other travels I've had, it's not 4 weeks. I've been out a lot, many weeks. 4 weeks because it's recent. I guess it was a week or so in Australia. I came for a weekend, basically 2 nights, and I went off to Bahamas, Cuba, US, Germany, via Kenya. No weekend. I have had no weekend. Not just for 4 weeks, it's longer than that. But when you're out, you work every day. If you recall, the UN General Assembly began on a weekend. So we work every single day, into the night. You know, the unemployed man or woman or young person, this is what I have to say to you as to why I travel. And I'll give it to you by an example. When we were in Australia, we met one of the leading companies there, Sunfire. And they recalled how when we opened the mine early in August, we had a side meeting, at which they sought permission to expand their operations, which would result in 100 more people being employed. I agreed on a condition, and I instructed the minister right in Kikuke, where the mine is, or near Kuke, to go and give them the extension, provided they fulfill the condition that I had set. I won't get into the details of the condition. Now, when we got to Australia, and we had a business seminar, when Sunfire stands up to speak, Australian businesses listen. They've got to think, are they going to evacuate their capital to so many thousands of kilometers away in a jurisdiction they don't understand, and they don't understand how the people and the government work? And he provided that testimony. And they crowded around us. They're interested. This interest, once it manifests itself, is a job for that unemployed man. Not only that, it's a job for you, Ramadub, because you'll get to write their stories and your paper will make money because they'll advertise for that new company coming in. It's a job for the hotel industry and those who work in it. The taxi, the fuel gets bought, the food gets eaten, the creatives get to entertain. That's going to lead me now to other questions. I hope I have answered you. Rara Modubu, Lere Tangani. There was another question. Oh, African, I get it. When I did announce that at the beginning that we were happy for the East Africans for having won the bid, are we going to build that infrastructure? We're going to build some of it, but not build purposefully for AFCON. The stadia, for instance, I don't think we have a justification for building them now without an end point in mind. There's going to be a return on some of that investment when the finals were held. So we'll have to be advised. But from the looks of things now, we would not build some of those or most of those in the way that they were planned out for the time. But the others, sure. And this is what gave us confidence about the ability to finance this. We have the biggest infrastructure budget we've ever had in the history of Botswana, this financial year. 21 billion. Roads, hospitals, schools, what have you. A lot of those, what we learned from the consultants was to fine-tune for standard. So yes, we're going to build quite a lot of the infrastructure, including into the next financial year, because we have a MICE strategy that Minister talked about. We want to attract. You might as well notice, and I know you didn't ask, but I will pretend you asked, why are we having so many more meetings come here, including Kusi? Don't they need that infrastructure? Don't you need to be reporting on that? Don't they need the entertainment and the creatives to be supporting that? So it's building an ecosystem. I hope that makes sense. Miss Nonofo, sorry, I didn't get the second name, the architectural student. Nonoiso. Or with an L. Mpofu. Architectural students. What are we doing? What are we planning to? What are you doing to plan for the growth of the creative sector? It's a very, very welcome question. We have been at this for the longest. And I've explained this and justified it in part because I have a lot of personal experience, interest, and capacity in the creative space. I know what it takes. I know what it means. I know what it does. But sometimes we get derailed by cheap politicking. And I'll give you a classic example. Steve Harvey Incorporated. Not the man, the entity, the concept, the business. One of the reasons we were attracted to Steve Harvey, who was able to befriend, and befriending is like diplomatic relations. I don't know what's criminal about it. The minute you tabloid yourselves in the media, and tabloiding in this case, I mean, as the example I'll give, Yaga Steve Harvey, you, without any evidence, suggest that no, all those things, they derail. Because what happens is you raise the antennas of everybody, and everybody is very careful, as they should be, but in being careful, it slows everything down. And sometimes there's an identification of a step that may have been missed, you start all over again. But I'll tell you why we're attracted to Steve Harvey. Very simply, if you look at the followership he has, do any of you know how many? Come on, you're journalists, tell me. Oh, as I conducted an interview now. You don't know how many followers Steve Harvey has? It's in the millions, right? Much more than 4 times the population of Botswana. A lot of those people have money. But he doesn't only have followers, he has influence with his associates, the people he does business with, the people his company and the companies his company does business with. In the creative space, he pledged as part of this contractual agreement, not only would he come and do the Family Feud show here, which is a family feud, a family show like any you can get in the world, but it's by Steve Harvey. So his viewership will be viewing a Family Feud show produced in Botswana. With Botswana families participating. With Botswana, participating in the whole value chain, costume, makeup, lighting, rigging, all the backstage stuff, including those that accessorize food and drinks, beverages, transport, accommodation, and of course, entertainment. So his team, Steve Harvey Incorporated, who are some of the global best in some things that they do, would come here and they would train Botswana, who are in the ecosystem, the creative industry. I mean, how many producers have produced to shows that beam to millions of people in Botswana? Just how many? How many even understand the American market or other markets where he is also known and draws attention and understand the dynamics of that market so that you can attract that market? And the ability of him to grow the market in Africa would present our people with an opportunity to also understand the dynamics of that market. Our companies in Botswana, imagine in between the show, an advert, Govango Diamond. How many more people would see it? Compared to Mukaragan. I can't say Mukaragan, but Mukaragan, I don't know Zimbabwe win. But the reach is profound. This matches one of the things that attracted Steve Harvey to Botswana is also our technical capacity, YabiTV. It's one of the best TV stations in Africa. The reach thing, we can beam broadcast to the whole of Africa, including Madagascar and the oceans. Alaizi. But now with digital technology, we can broadcast the whole world, BTV. What does it need? It needs people who speak different languages, who are known, identified as a brand in other markets, who will then tune in. And when you sell advertising space, the price goes up because of your reach. When you sell your companies, they get to be known by many more people and hopefully the demand will increase. When you develop your unicorns, you have that reach. Do I need to say more? Do I? I mean, I can give you more justification. And what are we doing? That's an example. I can tell you a whole lot, the Arts Council that we put in place. But it's not just the council itself, it's the structure that we put in place which will enable for evacuation. I'll give you an example. Makazi or some performer from outside Botswana. They put up their own advertising, they collect money, If they exchange the money or declare it and pay whatever tax. Sometimes bahatsa pizze. If you go to South Africa, for example, you can't do that. The structures we put in place, the National Council, would stop them from doing that once all these are working. I can't just go there. I go through a structure in South Africa and they authorize me and I pay. That's the first levy. And I pay a body that makes the sector grow. We're going to do the same. That's what we've done. We're going to be providing more spaces for persons to express themselves. If you think of all the agro-tourism places, you remember COVID? I tried to promote my cabinet when we met COVID, to go and meet these places, MASISI. Do you remember? And I wanted the government to pay. You know, one of the setbacks I had was that I had some people who didn't understand what I wanted to do, and they frustrated it. But what I was doing is opening up spaces for people to gather and meet that is regulated. Airy spaces. Because to economize in being, when you don't do that, open spaces, you need to develop that capacity of the economy. And the reason I did it is because it's my people who own Masimo. That's going to be their business. We've upgraded it now. We've allowed them to develop agri-tourist enterprises and even put some game. When they apply and meet the minimum requirements. Now, that's a place where artists, whether fine artists, pottery makers, traditional doctors, healers, even phantom ones, you know, where it's an illusion. You go and pretend you are a traditional doctor. When you get a tourist come there, everybody is a traditional doctor. And they pay. People collect money. Those are creatives. We are providing that ecosystem. Right? So I don't want to hog it because there's a lot we have done. There's a lot. I mean, I could spend the whole time talking about it because the sector I understand very well. There's a lot more we need to do. And that's why we went to Wa Polo and we participate more the next narratives Africa. Because we want to develop these collaborations. You know, you'll be surprised. There are very few people who understand stage presence and how to captivate an audience. There are even fewer who understand how to use a microphone and the physics involved in it. There are fewer who understand the essentiality of eye contact and intonation of speech. These are skills that we need to workshop and train our people in. Even to present yourself. If you're having a marketing event, what food to serve, what drinks to serve, how to speak, what furniture to put there. We're providing a plethora of these opportunities. And that's why when we have events, we have youth companies engaged. That's why we're having many more conferences and workshops. You know, the US Africa Business Summit, find out how many Botswana companies were involved and how well they did. Come talk to me. We need to provide more space for people to go and sing and make noise without making noise to the neighbor. I live at State House. I'm probably the president who suffers the most noise because we have this monolithic parochial understanding. Entertainment and music is going to the stadium, having a festival and making noise and, you know, into the morning. There are places all over the world where they make noise without noise being heard. Architecture. We're going to provide those spaces. You can open a restaurant in a residential neighborhood, again, or even a nightclub. And when we designed the plots and we gave permission, we didn't provide the land, give you the land, which allowed for vehicles to park and you to enclose for safety. We are changing that. If you look at our land system and allocation, we're changing all that. That's for creatives. We're trying to be the get-to place for those. Kind of we are responding to our population dynamics. 60% or more are young people. You've got to provide for them. No, that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to do. Why do you think I go to MOKGWEETSI and dance? Why? I was probably the only president who went to a concert. But I know there's a place for those who drink alcohol in the open. I don't mind. It's for young people. They're doing something that's not offending anybody. So we must embrace this. They were being entertained. The systems, graphic artists, the advertising, all these are support systems for the creatives. But there's more and more. Let me answer others. I hope you will do well with your architecture. Hey, now I'm having difficulty. Oh, yeah. I think I hopefully veered into your question about the space, the financial size of business and your creative industry. And we're trying to, get into that. Miss Mereki. I can't see what I wrote as the first name. Neliswa. Yoliswa. A student in political science. I don't think it should be a problem to have 10 students. We'll find space, Minister Kwape. 10 students. Political science students. I'm not involved in who picks them, so don't blame me. But yeah, we can arrange for 10 students to come and engage. And I think it may be useful also to take another 10 in business or trade, those who study business, because it's going to involve that, or economics. So 20 places, internshipping, it's a work placement, induction. So I'm really glad for that. It's just the issue of financial constraints. And that's what I was saying to the journalist, I really wish we would be able to take them, and we can break some of the protocol provided to some limited extent. It's very useful. Then they can go and inform Batori, this is what we pitch at. But I hope they believe us when we tell them this is what we talked about. Are we intending to establish more diplomatic missions? Yes, we are. It's all a question of spatch. I can let you out on what I had thought of before this war with Ukraine broke out. I wanted to have us to open a mission in Russia. But the affordability of that now is quite strenuous. Russia is, presents a lot of opportunity. A lot of our students study there. There are a lot of benefits that we can get out of Russia. And we do have diplomatic relations with them. We just don't have a presence in Russia. It's been served from, elsewhere. And we often talk about the minister and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. If we had it our way, we'd open more missions in Africa also. But the Far East also. Our mission in China is serving a huge area. It can't manage. However many people you put there, you just can't manage. Germany is the second biggest economy. Sorry, it's the biggest economy in Europe. It's got a small mission. France is the second biggest economy in Europe, right? And but if you look at some of the countries that are coming up and punching through, it's amazing. Vietnam, a country that was ravaged by war. If you go and visit Vietnam and look at their tourism, their manufacturing, their branding, it's out of this world. So there are many places where we could open missions. So yes, study hard, we rayamang. 2, study so hard that everybody is dying for you. You know, even the United Nations provides the opportunity to go to SADC. We got our own Mahosi there, and then I studied economics, I think. Huh? He's not a political science student, so malazinga go batla go tlhakanya dilonyana motswako as well, you know, help. Mem Mastofel, I think I've answered you. Mameriki again. Could we interest more of those that we attract to invest in the health space? And you gave very good reasons. There will be a next pandemic, and there are many health challenges that Botswana faces. That's exactly what we're doing. You know, we have Dr. Patrick Sonshu, my external health advisor and a mega investor who's determined and decided to start on investing in vaccine production. Vaccine production is not an easy thing to get into. You need the human capital to do it. So, networks. The first vaccine, because they raised a company in Botswana, and I think subsidiaries, he developed a vaccine which was given a Tswana name. This vaccine was developed on the strength of the Botswana company, his Botswana company. So for the first time, a Botswana company developed vaccine. Because we don't have the infrastructure yet and the personnel, it was developed in India, the global pharmaceutical place. And he called it Pulavax. And he donated 1 million doses of COVID vaccine to Botswana. So I had the COVID, million. Right? He also then riveted when we realized that COVID seemed to be subsiding. And then we decided in the BDIH space that he's paying rent for health pharmaceutical development. He's going to start with compounding. Compounding, and making all sorts of medicines and tablets. Buddhist Prinias Pro, whatever, tablets that are made out of mixing. He's going to do that. But before you do it, you develop what are called clean rooms. They are developed to architectural standards that would be acceptable because he wants to develop products that are FDA approved. Federal Drug Agency, America. Why? So it can enter the American market. So that's in progress. But we have been engaging him because we have been to some of his facilities and some of his investments. He is a man who became a multi-billionaire by inventing a drug that helps with the treatment of cancer. Marketed it, grew the company, sold it, and became a billionaire. US dollar billionaire. And did other things and made loads of money. He's not short of money. Money is short of him. So he's got investments in a number of companies, including media. He's got studios, cutting-edge 22nd century studios, in which he can create a set of whatever he imagines without going to that location. So it reduces the cost of filming. He's a co-investor. He owns shares in the LA Lakers. That's why he invited me to the court side, LA Lakers. So I experienced that, an American experience. For your country. You comply. No, I'm still busy. Right? So we went, and the team that I go with all the time, I tell them, you immerse yourself in what we do here. Obviously by being ethical and responsible and representing us well, without getting into things that are dubious or imbibing in things that are illegal or drinking. Too much. Drink a little bit, yeah, but too much. So Ray Patrick Sunchu is an investor in a company that develops drones. Not just drones, but stellar drones. They have a capacity to lift heavy objects. They are sturdy. And they were even classified as one of the listed products for American security. So for it to be taken out of the country, the security system in America has got to approve it. Protected. And he expressed a willingness to sell some to us, and he would subsidize one. So the Minister of Agriculture here, Yagaremolao, with Machengeta, are busy procuring. Is it 3? 3. He is an investor in a company that develops panels that absorb not just heat, but also vapor, and converts some of the air into vapor, and it condenses to become water, potable water. He donated 100 of them to us. That's health, because it's portable, and we put them in Lubu. I'm talking about things you can go and see. Perhaps you should organize a media outing and pay for them, buy a go Lubu, not only see what is happening there, but also drink the water. Water from pure Helamoa. That's technology. Those are the kind of friends that I go out to go and make for you. And what are we talking to him about? We're talking to him about not just bringing them here, we're talking to him about setting up a plant here, because when he talks to me, he tells me he's the owner of the technology. He doesn't need to go to a board, he decides. And he says, Mr. President, you must decide too. Then I decide. So he and I have decided we're going to do all we can. Obviously, it's got to make business sense. So those who are experts in the financial side will punch the numbers to see if it makes economic sense, business sense, to set up a manufacturing plant of those panels in Botswana. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about also putting up a plant for halogen mirrors that, when put together, loads of them, they concentrate the rays of the sun and generate so much energy, you can generate power and turn a turbine. He owns that technology. He owns the technology of new therapeutics, cancer-fighting drugs. He produces what he calls T cells. T cells are cells that fight cancer, no longer with chemotherapy, with cells that he injects into your body, and they're going to attack the cancer. These are tested, the efficacy has been proven. There are people who have been made to recover from these therapeutics. And right now we're in deep discussion with him about how to evacuate that to the Circuit Tumile Masira Teaching Hospital and have them there and set up a whole floor. Yeah, all these. Some of them I can't really get into because they're still very sensitive in the stages of engagement. But guess what's the most recent? Mastofel. CTL. It's an American company. We go back and forth, and part of the reason we go back and forth, I'll be very blunt and honest with you, our people, and I include myself in it, we have never experienced engaging people at this level and in these things or with these things. We have no experience. So we are naturally cautious and sensitive and guarded. So sometimes it slows things down. CTL, a technology company, they make vertebra implants. Bolamba 1, 2, 3, 4. They make the replacements for those that work, FDA approved. They are a company that have more than 100 patents. But here's a strategy that I use, which is different from what we used to do in the past. I tell them, we don't want you to provide a service to us. Because we are knowledge-driven, where our intention is to possess knowledge, intellectual capital, and trade on that intellectual capital more than the products. We want partnership. We want to buy part of that intellectual capital. So we've agreed with CTL that we're going to buy part of their company. For you, Botswana government buying. So that when the patent is sold, or when people use the products of the patent, they pay a levy, and part of that patent levy payment comes to the Republic of Botswana. But you know what? We also struck an agreement with them. Just yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yesterday, they performed for the first time, because we had agreed and put a deadline or before independence, they must perform high-end surgical implants of these products they have and engage in corrective surgery at the pelvic and the back spine, right in Sekitumile Parentery Hospital. I think 3 of them were performed yesterday. 2 yesterday. One of them was a 61 or 71-year-old lady, another one a gentleman, successfully. The team, leading surgeons are here with our own, because we send our people to the best medical schools in the world, and they become real global experts. They have not had the tools and the systems in place in their country. Now, through Sekitumile, we're doing it on our own. And a Motswana surgeon, Dr. Mopel, Igrom Mopel, was one of the surgeons yesterday who performed this miracle first in our country. Maabani. And we're going to do more. You know, the kidney space, we're going to do more cancer fighting, including pediatric cancer. Because why? We want to be the hub of medical tourism. But it must make sense. When people come here, rather than do it where they could do it, they come here because it's more cost-effective, more efficient, more reliable, less painful, more enjoyable. And when they recuperate, they can go and be entertained by our creatives in the places you designed. And if they have more money, they can go out into Kgalagadi or the Delta. So we are right there. Yeah, Ideas Festival in Makusi, I don't want to pretend I know it better than the people who know it. I'm going to invite the director. Please come on stage and answer the last question for me.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for this opportunity to talk a little more about Kusi Ideas Festival. I think the question was, but let me introduce myself first. My name is Wangeli Mwangi. I'm a non-executive director of the Nation Media Group, which, as you heard, is the second largest independent media corporation in Africa. I think the first one is NASPAS in South Africa. In addition to sitting on the board, I also chair the planning committee of the Kusi Ideas Festival. The question was, what is Kusi and what is it offering Botswana? And I think whether there is participation of other leaders. Kusi, I think that when we first hear the name Kusi, what comes to mind immediately is entertainment, you know, dances, parties, music, and the rest of it. And yes, it is entertainment, all right, but of a different kind. Kusi celebrates ideas. Ideas generated by Africans and ideas that are geared towards solutions, homegrown solutions that then look at the challenges that Africa confronts every day, whether it's at our individual level, country level, or regional level. So we celebrate those ideas. And the president mentioned the medical procedures and medical technology, that Botswana is immersing itself in. So those are the ideas that we celebrate. Kusi itself derives from the southeasterly winds that seafarers in days gone by used to rely on to bring trade to the eastern coast of Africa. And those ideas, that wind now brings ideas across the Indian Ocean, the ideas that we see and we pick up and we run away with to get the continent to a better place than it is right now. That's why he called it Kusi Ideas Festival. What is in it for Botswana? Many things, actually. The first Kusi was hosted in Kigali, in Rwanda. And we had the participation of the Rwandan president, the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the former prime minister of Kenya, Raila Odinga. And we got them into what we call presidential roundtable, where they fielded questions from not just intellectuals and academics and the rest of them, but from students who had been invited by the president from the university in Rwanda. So it opens up the field of discussion so that it becomes inclusive. You are bringing students, you are bringing the youth, you are bringing men, you are bringing women, academics, thought leaders, and the rest of them. And then at the end of it all, we pick out what we call moonshots. Those are ideas that we think can be further interrogated and developed into solutions to the problems that Africa faces. And the one that we're bringing to Rwanda isn't going to be any different. We are hoping that we'll be able to create that presidential roundtable involving as many of the SADC leaders, heads of state, as we can bring together. And we are drafting, working with the Botswanan, our Botswanan colleagues, we are drafting questions that we'll hope that each of them will address around the theme of the Africa Union Agenda 2063, making it happen. What has happened? What are these? What is this agenda? What has happened since it was conceptualized? And where have the roadblocks been? And what can be done about those roadblocks? Then we pick up those ideas and generate bigger ideas out of them throughout the year, so that those that then seem to have fallen off the edge of the table, we bring them back to another discussion at Kusi. This will be the 5th Kusi, and given the support that we have received from the government of Botswana, we are hopeful. We actually believe, we are convinced that it's going to be the best Kusi ever. I think I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I've just been reminded by Minister Sarame that I forgot to answer a question to do with HB and Lukara. My answer is going to be very brief. In 2021, the Botswana government got an unsolicited bid from HB, Antwerp. And well, to involve itself in the marketing of diamonds in a manner different from that which we are used to. I'm going to make another assumption that you know what you're talking about, so that I skip some things to get to the gist of it. Traditionally, we had been marketing our diamonds through the sales platforms that are provided, the sales that are done when site holders come and buy ever so often through the auctions that are held. And then a small amount, would be evacuated through the company that Botswana government owns, Okavango Diamond Company. And that was made up of 10% of the production of Botswana that was allocated to Botswana government as per the agreement, the last agreement before this one. And therefore, 90% of our production would be bought by DBS. These are all rough stones. So we were participating in the rough stone space only. It's important and instructive to understand what I'm about to say in order for us to make meaning of why we entertained the unsolicited bid, HB. Participating in rough space only meant that we only had access to a business size globally that was valued per year at $15 billion only. That's the rough diamonds. And sadly, as per the agreement we had before, which is the one I fought, thankfully successfully, the agreement is the one that held us into participating only in the rough diamond space. Only. We were not allowed by agreement to value add. But the size of business of value added diamonds globally per year is equivalent to $100 billion. Do you see the difference? 15 billion to 100 billion. Right now we lock ourselves by agreement into only playing at 15 billion. Ghana is like going to the Olympics of high jumpers. And then you say, no, now I'm only participating in the Olympics of high jumping up to 30 centimeters. And then there's a real Olympics, about 2 meters. And the prize money for those who jump at maximum of 30 centimeters is 2 pula. And the prize money for these ones is $1 million pula. So you have to, rack your brain, or how did we agree to that? Now, I couldn't get an answer, so I rejected it with all the might and ferocity I could master. And I still reject it. HB came to us with a proposal that they would be able, through the diamonds they get from Lucara, which are not bound by the agreement we had with De Beers, to take them with Lucara to their next level, value add them, and they asked the Botswana government to tolerate being paid after they realize the highest price. Of course, on the basis of trust, I get the risk we assessed, because Lucara has investment here, they have a mine. So if they try to run away with those diamonds, we'll take the mine, or we take the ones in the mine. So we allowed them to. We were testing it. And they were able to pay government the dues that government was to have from the sales of diamonds at a higher value than what they were selling before. So that for us was the proof of concept. So we waited a few months, and they came back and asked for an extension of that agreement when the Botswana government was not involved. And they were able to demonstrate lots of money coming in. And they came back and they wanted a 10-year agreement. Now we invoke the unsolicited proposal you had. Let's change the mix of the game. Let's not just limit it to Lucara diamonds. Because you need more, you've demonstrated that there's a market and demand for this. You've demonstrated that you have relations and link with deep-pocketed clients, and they can't get enough. You don't have enough. We will now agree with you in principle to also include the Ogovango rough diamonds and no longer sell them only as rough. But not all of them, only 10%. Arautan. That's what the agreement has been as a proposition. And so we engaged in an exercise of due diligence and determined that there may well be a business case for it. So in March this year, after we agreed, we announced that we intend to purchase 24% of HB Antwerp. And why 24%? They initially wanted less than that, but we talked them to more than that because we wanted significant stakeholding. Diamonds, when you invest in them, is not just the diamonds. It's all the intellectual capital that goes with the value addition. So the marketing algorithms, the technology that goes with it, and the associates that they have in the marketing, we are buying the total lot. the first time in the history of Botswana. But we also got to understand it deeply. We were getting to understand, or we've gotten to understand the diamond sector and industry better than we ever have since we started diamond mining. We have never had this opportunity because we were never given this opportunity by our partner, DBS. So in learning a lot, we realized that we could make a lot more money. So it just made logical business economic sense to risk this 10% because we could afford it. And the amount of money we're going to make is enormous. And clearly, our erstwhile partner DBS was very unhappy with it. They made it known. They were unhappy with it. We didn't expect them to be happy because they were the ones enjoying the benefits of value-added diamonds to our exclusion. So we tolerated their unhappiness, but those are our diamonds. They couldn't stop us. And that's why in the negotiations it became so tense. And I had to threaten them, or if they don't come to the party on this, we'll break this deal. It was going to mean a lot for us. I mean, it's going to hurt our economy a lot, but it would hurt our economy for a short time. And I was prepared for that. I was even prepared for electoral harm. But even those who may have won after hopefully they would have the sense to see the numbers. But now I was doing it out of national interest, superior to any other interest. But in the world of business, things happen. And so there suddenly appeared to be a difference within the board of ownership of HB Diamonds. Do you think we're surprised? No, of course not. We're adults. We know what's going on. And in this difference occurring, and then there was a change of leadership at Dukara. And they brought back somebody, and they announced, like you told me, and I also know, they broke up their relationship with HB because of financial issues. So the deal is off. So Lukara and HB, as has been announced, don't have that relationship. It's for us now to determine the course of action we take. And I can't say it here at a press conference. But I can assure you one thing. We are going never to not participate in the value-added space. Nobody is going to stop us. Nothing will stop us. We hadn't signed with HB. So there's no contract with HB. It was an agreement in principle. We also have not signed with DBS. It's an agreement in principle. We are due to sign by the 30th of this month. So leave us to play our games, but we'll play them well for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I think we have long overshot the time that we had allocated for this press conference. We can only thank His Excellency for having taken time, and the honorable ministers here present for having taken time to talk to us, the members of the Fourth Estate. And as they had already promised, I can guarantee you that the honorable ministers will make an appointment with ourselves so that they can then unpack some of the issues that they would like to unpack to us. Your Excellency, thank you very much, and thank you so much for your audience.
Please allow me on my way out to thank the University of Botswana for kindly hosting us. So UB, thank you very much. Oh, hey. You know, where's the political science student? Come over here. Oh, no, you're not a journalist, sorry. You know what, I'll get you another one, right? Yeah, just get a contact. We'll get you another one. But I want a journalist. Kima, hey. School, Hatimang. Remember your name again? Yours will be coming, member Meriki. I'll give her Ngulu. Yeah, just get her contacts and then we'll give it to her. Thanks.
Hey, you with me?
The road to destiny is not paved with brick and tar, but with vision and determination that unveil over time who we truly are when we get there. The Ministry of Transport and Public Works has embarked on a journey of transformation to enhance the efficiency of transport system in the Greater Gaborone area. This journey of the Greater Gaborone Urban Transport Improvement Project is funded by the Government of Botswana, assisted by the World Bank and OPEC Fund for International Development. The ideas adopted through this transport improvement project will for the next 25 years transform Greater Gaborone to a mobile compact city based on concepts of urban transport development in relation to land settlement and use. Wasting no time and without a moment to spare, the government of Botswana, through the Ministry of Transport and Public Works, initiated the construction of 3 bridges or overhead crosses along the KT Motseta Drive, Western Bypass. At the junction with Lobatse Road, Game City Circle, Willie Siboni Road, BTV Circle, and Kudumatse Drive, Rainbow Circle. The installation and operation of new modernized traffic signaling systems and centralized traffic control (CTC), as well as the layout improvement of selected intersections in Greater Gaborone. These projects will go a long way in enhancing critical transport infrastructure required for improving quality of life for citizens and visitors and strengthening economic development in the Greater Gaborone area. The ministry is set on fulfilling Vision 2036 aspirations for the benefit of all Botswana through sustainable roads of a global standard that promote prosperity for all. Ministry of Transport and Public Works, gateway to world-class infrastructure and transport services.
Re hetogela gore re boele ko morago maruping re ipelege ha re ka se ra ipelega ra tswela re ngakalla mo gore re ikege ka puso hela ra go siwa ke batho me ba go siela ruri ba mahatsa a mangwe a re tshentsheng a re sa irendilo ya ka nentse re dira o na le hatse go botlhaba ga lehatshe ka bophara le bidwa Vietnam ne ga lwa ntwa ya diphiragobe ile ha ba ntwa teng hela ba ikana ba itoma sekgolo ba re ha ba go thola ba ira ka nentse ba dira ba ikanne gore mo bojanaleng ba go gaisa mongwe le mongwe lehatsing ba pa dijo tsa ba di apang di gaisa dijo tsotlhe tse di ka pesegang ba jana ba pomponyega ba o kwa ke tatswa dijo tsa bone ba ikaeletse gore ba go phepahatsa metse ya bone tropo tsa bone matlo a bone le di-office tsa bone di-hotele tsa bone go gaisa mongwe le mongwe ha o tsena ko Vietnam ha o ka kwa bona le ha e le thasedi ya leswe lona le hakae le tshwanetse le ntlahatse ga lona ka dijalo ka go ritela ka go kgapa ka go aga maraka le masaka le tshwanetse le rue di ruiwa tse dintle go di puisane gompieno ana the best animal reproductive company mo lehatsing re buisana le bona gore tse le gore ba dira kwa America tse di sa dirweng gope ka kwano le gore mo Africa borwa di seo ba tlhakanne kgwebo e le rona reke sabe mo go bone e be re sa ire mo dikgomong hela ka gore bona ntse ba ire mo dikgomong hela le ga le dipudi ba di leka di diphologolo tsa rona tsa naga tota re dire re tsene mo go kgona gore re kgona go ketsa dipalo tsa phologolo tse e le gore di a ratega ko matsing a sele mme di tlhaela ka dipalo re kgone go di ikokeletsa e be re di rue re di tshele mo lehatsing mo re je madi a re tšhentšheng yaanong re batla gore mo ditšupong tsena go simolole gore re ritele ka intellectual property re batla gore ga re rekisana maa rona e re go te BMC kana go te eco e be go na le tlhotlhwa e le gore ke a nama le tse ba dirileng e be go na le tlhotlhwa e le gore ke a eco ke a BMC intellectual property ga gona ope o kile a tlhabologa a sa tšhentšha la gakologela gore ngogola ne ra emisa mengwa ya merogo e re kgonang go itemela mme ne seo la itse gore mmokolo nno a nna kana kang la itse gore go omana ne ga nna kana kang la itse gore ba ba sa itlhaloganyane ba mpitsa maina a le kae mme ne ra ntsha ganne go le teng re ntsha merogo ya rona mo gae ra tlhatlosa gompieko we are more than 65% self-sufficient ka merogo se setseng se re batlang gore le yone sida e sa akanye gore e go se rotloetsa gore merogo ya ka ena mentsi yana ka gore tlwaetse gore le leme seo se le sengwe ya re le bantsi ka le kwele ngwana be di bola tlhotlhwa e be ya ko tlase re kgone gore di gabetlelele e be re dira merogo e leng gore e tsentswe mo dibotlolong e tsentswe mo dithining a re tšhentšheng ne le ntse le lla le re lona le batla gona banana ra go le neela bonana yaanong ka temo letloto mme e le gore re adima go reka terekere di dirisiwa ga o na le ga o le manteng gore o itemele re emisa diterekere tse di hisiwang ntse ka gore bahirisi ba diterekere ne ba kgobakgoba ba leleka madi hela ta ga o sa e bone ngwagona itlhokotse ngwagotla go tla duma go a go ileng bontlhabongwe ba temo letlotlo ba go tla ka phetolo ya tsamaiso ya gore sepe se batana se se go senyetsang o se laole ga go botlhale gore re le neele masimo ga go botlhale gore re le neele meraka e be re le saesetsa diphologolo tsa puso malobana la gakologela gore tso go reka ka madi a lona a setšhaba madi a ka reka 25 million pula ra reka dipoo le kgomo tse dinamagadi tse dingwe dimo di a re matlapa maga o di tlhokometse fanki le ba bangwe ebile go lekala gore ke tlhwaetse yang le mmotse minister gare ke boletse matona a me otlhe gore ke tšhentšhile yanong gore o ntswelele o le tona ga se go berekegela o dira ka bonatla ke gore o reke kane e nne le meroto ke bagile sebaka ke rile ka di-1 tsa ga September ga gone o tsena mo cabineteng a sena kane ayo a o ruile a rua ga ke se mathata mo go nna a ke ra re ke mo etelelipele ebile ba dumela se ke se buang ba tla ntshala morago ang ba duduetsang ba sa ireaka ke re bobdira ga e le gore ga a rua o a go ga masika a gagwe mme ruto eo ene o tla bana lekane e le mo etelelipele o ne gore go bonwa dilo tse di siameng mo go ene a re sa ireng dilo ya ka ne ntse re dira a re tšhentšheng